Hi, and welcome to another episode of Money Talk, where we don't just talk about money, we think about money. We think about money in a way that we've never thought about before. Some people have problems with money. Some people have problems with thinking about money. Some people say, I'm no good at this kind of thing about hanging on to my money, but just let me tell you what, money is no laughing matter unless you are my next guest. So I have two requests right now. If you like what you hear, if you like what you see, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, like it, and subscribe to our channel so you know when we're coming out. And the next thing I want you to do is stay tuned because we'll be right back. Linda gave me the courage, the confidence to move forward.
And after I was finished with Linda Kaye's training, I was at the next level.
It's Linda Kaye. When you trust that piece of you that says, I got something to give, I have something to say, you know you've got something to do.
Get on your feet, shake your hands in the air. Welcome to the stage, Linda Kaye.
Not quite live. We had a lot of problems today with StreamYard trying to get into, and I noticed at the top of StreamYard when I first came in today, it said, oh, we're having trouble with Facebook. We're not able to connect with Facebook. And that is one of the places that we connect with. So I'm just going to say right now that we are recording this so you can at your leisure. So today I have a very, very special guest with me. As I said, you know, when you don't know what you're talking about, when you don't know what you're saying about money, money can slip through your hands like water. You know, and P.T. Barnum always said that a fool was born every moment, that a fool and his money would be parted within seconds, and he was right. So sometimes we can think, you know, wow, there's way too much month at the end of the money. So how do we keep track of money? How do we think about money? What do we say about money? I'm going to tell you that my next guest is coming up, known as the profitability expert. Now, you don't get to be an expert unless you've been doing this for a while, and she has been for over 34 years of experience in industries, and I'm going to let her tell you all about it. But welcome to the stage today, Tina Meeks. Tina?
I'm here.
It's
Can
the
you hear
real
me?
you, Tina. I can hear you.
How are you?
Oh my God. I can't believe this has been one heck of a attempt to try to record. Let's see, you're in San Diego and I'm currently in Las Vegas. And I've had pretty good luck with the Wi-Fi and some of the things that I've been doing since I've been here. But I was in a session and in one of the casinos here, and really, truly, I was at an event, not in the casino itself, but in the conference center, really getting things done about learning about all about AI. But they had so many problems with their own AI. I think in a place as popular as, say, Las Vegas, that it would be easy enough for us to get internet. And they had so many problems. So I don't feel so bad because I am in Las Vegas. I am in a hotel room. You were in San Diego at a hotel room. So here we are. We are going to get our message because people need to hear about money. Why don't people want to talk about money?
Well, I guess because, it's the thing they everybody feels they don't have enough money. They look at the negative side of it instead of the positive side and finding ways to make more of it, right? Money is in the mindset. It's all in the financial mindset and understanding and learning about it. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with the physical components of money. It's what goes around the processes behind making more money. And that's the mindset everybody needs to have, is learning and understanding it and not think of it as too complex. But there's funny spins around it too. Makes learning fun.
Well, okay. And we're going to get to that. But let's talk about mindset. You know, what are some of the crappy things we've learned as kids, as we learned as young adults? You know, money doesn't grow on trees. I'm going to give you a second to just tell us what kind of interesting messages have your clients told you they were told about money?
Oh my gosh. Everybody's been told about the 8 to 5 job, learning your values based on your education, your values based on your status quo, your position title, how hard you can work, how much you have to work to earn more money, what you have to do to keep earning more money. And money doesn't just come from nowhere. Yeah, all the stigma, it's all the limiting beliefs around money and becoming prosperous and wealthy and all that good stuff is where the mindset is. I would say it's a lot of limiting beliefs, Linda.
Limiting beliefs, but we have this thing called, conscious, where we're aware of what that thought is, right? So we may not be consciously thinking, oh, money is really hard. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money, you have to go work a 9 to 5 job or an 8 to 6 job and in order to earn money, or go to school and get that education, like you were saying. But how do you get past that when it's on the subconscious level? You're not even aware that you're acting out or you're doing these things. How can we become more aware of what our mind is telling us when we're not listening? Because it just kind of seeps up into things, doesn't it?
It does. It's changing the way you do things, knowing that money is a direct result of an action, right? I work a lot in business systems and processes. So a lot of my clients are losing money because their business and systems and processes are not set up to earn the money. They have a lot of leaks and then they don't know why they're losing money. So that's one of the areas that they don't think of. A lot of people that are entrepreneurs or even individuals, when you get so stuck and driven in one component, you can't see beyond that. You got to change your behaviors, your processes, your actions, and just your positivity, your mindset, and the money will eventually start flowing. Kids today in their early 20s are earning a living off of 20 minutes a day, making more money than most people make in a year from all different variations. So you see the mindset where you don't have to do all of those things anymore and work yourself to the bone is not where it used to be. You see, actions are changing the way people are making money. Investments, stocks, bonds are always up and down. People are always worried about that. Again, that's a limiting. You got to come out of that mindset and let things work for you. So there's a lot of different things. My thing is, I just use different analogies and education. Every area of finance is different. And depending on what industry you're in, is going to depend on where we put your mindset. I use analogies. So if I'm working with someone that is college degree, college level versus someone that is in their 60s and or 70s, close to retirement, I want to use every day-to-day analogy. So I get to learn who they are as a person, what they like, what they don't like, and I use analogies to explain processes to them that make sense to them, so they know what they're doing and how they're doing their job that affects that company making money or themselves.
So
Depending on
tell me, give me a little bit of an example about process. When you're talking, so are you talking about entrepreneurs and their process, or are you talking about people that work for a corporation?
It could be either way, no matter what you're doing. If you're doing a process that the end result is to process a transaction, whether it's a monetary transaction or whether it's a process that makes the money, you got to know how everything is flowing behind the scenes, right? I say, it's like the brick and mortar of the business,
Sure.
right? Or a foundation of a home. You have the bricks and you have the mortar. If those are not solid, how can you build the house? So you should
Indeed.
always learn how things flow, because it's not just pushing a button. I always say software companies aren't 100% proof. 100% proof. Somebody has to monitor those processes. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I won't get all technical in reference to processes, but no matter what industry you're in, you've got to learn what you do that affects the end result that could be causing the money, whether it's costing, hitting a button, selling a product, whatever it is. But I will say, Linda, I mean, money has a lot of transactions behind it, right? And I think that's what overwhelms everybody, because everybody's looking at this paper or these coins. But what brings that to the front end?
Oh, now we're going to go there in just a second, but I'm going to challenge you just a little bit. And I'm going to have you stay focused on the entrepreneur, not the corporation, because corporations are already getting behind this. Okay. What's going to happen? Let me go back historically. When we didn't have a dollar, right? Because before the United States became the United States, we were, we were citizens of another part of the world, or our ancestor. And prior to that, in another part of the world, before they became nomadic and said there's got to be a better way. But the way that they traded for anything was always through a barter system. Value for value, right? Value for
Yes.
value. And what one perceived to be value might be more value. They didn't have that skill set. So it could have been, a blacksmith, or it could have been, a sculptor or whatever it was. They used that as a bartering system. And so money is still that bartering system, but we've put a symbol on it. We've said it's worth this, right? And yet we haven't really removed ourselves from that mindset. What's going to happen when we shift to cryptocurrency or blockchain technology, which we're getting ready to? All of a sudden, we won't be using dollars. We won't be using coins. We won't be using any of these. We will be using something called blockchain. Then all of a sudden, we're going to have some other issues. What kinds of things are you doing to prepare yourself, or can you recommend to us to prepare ourselves for what's coming next?
That's exactly right. Everybody is focused so much on this green or the silver of what we have here in the United States. You got to think beyond that. Separate yourself. Go back to value. Go back to service. Go back to bartering. Put yourself in that level of mindset and see what your value is. If you had no money at all, back in the day it was gold and then it became currency. Think about that. Think about how you would live your life if there was no dollar bill, no coins in this world right now. How would your entrepreneurial skills kick in so you still can survive on the life that you have? Think of that. Farming, farming, home building, all the things are going to get back to the level of trade, of all the things that people did with their hands. Technology may be limited. Who knows? A lot of people say it may be, a lot of people don't. So you either have to learn a physical trade or some other type of talent trade. Like for me, I can organize. I organize and structure. It doesn't matter if it's a computer system or somebody's life. It's organizing is what works for me, is getting somebody in a mindset of organization, and then everything starts to flow.
Now, if I'm going to rely on becoming a farmer, I'm going to tell you I'm going to starve to death, because
Me
I
too.
am not a farmer. I might be a farmer's daughter, but I am not a farmer. But we can
I'm
farm
right
in
there with
different
you.
ways, right? We can farm for people's talent. And having come from an AI bot conference, we are starting to see a major shift where technology will take over jobs, things that we kind of take for granted, things that we farm out that we really don't want to do. Having a system or having a team of bots that will become your system or your people. System is becoming more important than ever, because even if I were to go and create an AI chat of some type, whether it was to create a blog or to create a book or to have it create images for me in DaVinci, or to have it create images in Midjourney, I'm still going to have to understand a system and a process. So I think system and process and money might be coming to a point where they could meld, where they could actually bring more and greater value, because when we understand that people talent and blockchain is value, and we're going to again begin to trade value for value on a whole different level. Tina, I think I heard somewhere that you were on a bus recently and you were the comedian de jour. Now, most people don't think that money is a very funny matter, but you do. I wonder if you could talk to us about that for a second.
Yeah, so money, I grew up very poor, very poor. I'm a twin, and my mom was a child of a single mother, and we grew up on welfare. So money was never a big thing in our family. We were lucky. My favorite thing to eat as a child was mustard bread. We didn't have that kind of money like people have today. I think there's a lot of overuse of money, but I throw money. So one of my biggest things, Linda, I say is, if I don't make it in life, I'll just be working at a blind man stripper bar, because that's exactly what I'll have to do. And, it breaks the mold, using comedy to explain different ways of financial literacy or financial understanding about why why you do processes. It just helps people learn easier. I've just learned that comedy really does help people understand, especially if you use related topics. And, it just comes so naturally to me. So if you bring up a topic, Linda, about something, I'm having a comical situation right behind it about something that's going to end in money, no matter what it is.
Okay, so let's
And
go
yeah.
there. Let's use friends going to lunch to celebrate a lunch a birthday, and there's always one person that doesn't want to pony up. Give me a moment of comedy about that.
Oh, if you have one friend that doesn't want to pony up the split, they have to do something above and beyond to make that party an adventure. So you better get up on the bar and look like a coyote ugly chick and drop the drink or lick it off my stomach or something. You got to suffer and pay the consequences if you don't have the bill to split that bill, because we're not all footing for you now. We didn't have you come here for us to chip out. You better grandstand it. Or something of that
That's so
nature.
good.
Oh, yeah.
That's so good. Okay, wait a minute. Here's another one. You're going out on a blind date and the check comes and he looks to you and you look at him. Take it from there.
Oh, I'll say, you don't want the money from under my boob. I've been sweating all day, running and everything. If you want me to pay the bill, it's going to be all sweaty money, and I'll have to show the waiter right here. So you let me know. They'll pay.
Shame game. I love it. Shame him into pain. So one of the things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs do is they realize that they need some tools, right? They need this, they
Yes.
need that tool, they need this tool. And I know when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I realized, oh, I need that. Ooh, I've got to go get that. Oh, I need that. Oh, I need that. It was like another a shiny object syndrome, right? And we all know and have heard about the shiny object syndrome, but I would find myself, subscribing to something and getting that tool and then going, ooh, I don't really know about that. So I'm going to cancel that subscription. But if it's cheap enough, you just let it ride, don't you? That's only $100. What could that possibly hurt, right? I have a Ring Central where we haven't even done onboarding since I got it on April 3rd. There's something wrong with all of this, of the way that we do business. How can we be better as an entrepreneur with the subscriptions and the things that we need for our business?
Oh, the shiny penny syndrome. I speak on that a lot, Linda. You got to evaluate it. One thing about our society today is everybody wants everything this right now. Technology has caused a lot of that. Everybody wants everything so fast. You have to think 3 steps ahead. What is that bringing to me? What value is going to bring that to me today, or 1 month from now, or a year from now? Is it really worth that money? Because by the time you spend it, how much are you going to utilize it? Or do you have to hire somebody that's going to implement that Ring Central? So I get you there. It's a lot like what we do. We can't wear all the hats. It's nice to buy all these things that are of a lower value or an introductory price, but really sit back and work with somebody that can help you see 1 month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, and see the value of what that is bringing you from your purchase today. And I think a lot of people would reconsider and rethink things through before they hit that button purchase.
Well, we do that, and then we go, okay, I really needed that. And now we've subscribed to a few things that we really had the greatest of intentions of attending, because it was only, $30 a month, $60 a month. And, every once in a while you sit in, when it's really affordable like that, you really can't almost afford not to keep subscribing. So where are some of the ways that you're helping your clients understand what they're into and what they're doing and how to get a little better handle on what they're spending?
Well, documenting. That is the best thing.
Wait a
Is
minute.
writing it down.
Wait, you mean we got to document stuff?
Oh, it's not that hard. You do 2 columns. We make it simple. This is what you currently have. These are your mandatory. And I always do things in 3 groups, right? What you must have, you can't get rid of. Maybe what's consider what we can get rid of. And then group 3 is what we need to really talk about and why. Because there could be some things I learn a lot from my clients, just like they teach me, I teach them, and we learn, and it's a beautiful thing. And those are the things you want to look at, because once they look at it and it's all broken out, people don't want to document their financial income or their expenses. The income's
No,
bad
because
enough,
it's
it's
hard to
the
look at,
expenses.
Tina. It's hard to look at.
It is.
You know, because we
Is
don't want to think, oh my God, what am I doing with my money, right? So we don't want to admit that we're really not very good at this when we're so good at so many other things. Now, documenting it, where do you document it? In a spreadsheet or in a Word document or on a cocktail napkin?
Yeah, it's a simple spreadsheet, and it gives it two ways, Linda. There's some people that like seeing the numbers, and then some people like the pie chart. So I have a spreadsheet that has the pie charts where they can kind of see the income and expenses, and then we go over it and we look at it. Once you get it down on paper, let me tell you, every single client I've ever worked with on a personal level, once they get everything organized and we go through a strategy plan, the elephant is off their back. No lie, they brighten up, they become more productive, they become more focused. It is the grueling stake of putting all of that stuff in a form of just being there, whether it's written down or in a spreadsheet. A lot of people like the charts, and that I'm a visualist, believe it or not. Even though I do numbers, I'm a visualist. I like to see the charts, I like to see the data, and once you see it, it's easier to make a plan, it's easier to forecast, it's easier to budget, it's easier to plan 3 months from now, 6 months from now, because you got to know your numbers. You can't just go, I know I'm just spending too much, but what are you spending? Let's document it, because it might be things you can get rid of, or not even that, Linda. Some people have every bit of their expenses in their head. I know I pay this and this and this and
Right.
this and
I do
this,
too.
but
Yeah.
they don't know how to get rid of it. How do I stop paying for that? That's another thing we do. It's not just having the expense. How do you stop the expense? Because some of these subscriptions and some of these services that you have, they don't know how to go in and stop them. That's another thing I do. Let's go in and stop them. Let's correct them. Let's grab these few topics. So that's another thing a lot of people don't understand is I just don't know how to stop being charged for this.
So do you send things, do you put everything in a shoebox and send it off to your accountant or your CPA? Or is there a
Accordion
simpler
folder.
way? Right. That's something I would do, right? I mean, I have a number of credit cards, and then I have different accounts, and if you do QuickBooks Online, it doesn't necessarily, and you've got a third party looking at things. You don't really. It's hard to keep track of all that. What are some of the suggestions you make to some of your entrepreneurs starting their journey, or they're in their mid journey?
Well, if you're just starting out your journey, start off on the right foot. Find someone, what I call like the middle person, the person that can help harness you and make you accountable for tracking stuff. You don't want to get 6 months to a year and not have it. A CPA
Oh, is
does
that a
not have
problem,
time.
Tina?
Yeah, it's a problem. It's not a problem per se. It's just you're so focused on clients, the operating, the sales, the product, the delivery, the customer service. That back end stuff is not your cup of tea. It's not what you like to do. You don't like sitting down and dealing with those receipts and putting everything on a spreadsheet. You're so exhausted as an entrepreneur
Yes.
but you go, I'll get to that this weekend. I'll get to that Monday.
We
I'll
never
get to
do.
that Saturday. And
We
before you
don't.
know it, a year is around and you're scrambling for your
And the
year-end
only time when
taxes.
I'm remembering that I should have done that at least 2 quarters ago is when I'm preparing my taxes, right? So
Yep.
those can be challenging. What things should a good entrepreneur do on a monthly basis?
I would say definitely have an area that you put all your receipts, like a tray or whatever it is. Every month, then put them in the accordion folder. And then make sure you're documenting them in your spreadsheet. It's really easy. I take it like this, Linda. If I'm working with an individual that's growing their business, it's like a hoarding situation. Just imagine a hoarder. When you go in to clean up a hoarding house, you
Oh,
start with
those are
one
awful.
corner, you clean up that one spot, and then you go to the next spot, and then you go to the next spot. You take one little section at a time. That's how you do it. And you bring comedy and laughter all along the way. So I will find all your little funny bones, and I We'll make jokes along the way because one, I'm non-judgmental. I don't care if you drink 2 to 3 margaritas every dinner, every business meeting. I just want you to have the receipt in there so that way we can allocate
That's
for
right.
it.
No judgment.
And we
Just
just go
everybody's
through it.
serious.
Yes, definitely. We go through the processes, and it is tough no matter what you're doing in life. It finances is the tedious little thing because everybody knows how tedious it is. Everything takes a lot longer. It's not something people like to do, but if you don't keep up with your processes and you're documenting your finances, you're going to lose so much money. I've proven it over and over and over in 34 years. And then you'll be crying, going 2 years later, you work. What breaks my heart is you work so hard
Right.
and then you're losing all this money. And now you have to pay for somebody to help clean it all up, get you restructured. And it just breaks my heart every time. And I'm there. Let's not drink. Let's go ahead and have comedy.
Yeah.
It
Sometimes we
can be done. I promise you. I've been doing it for years.
Well, you don't just help people strategize about that. You help them strategize about how to price their products too. Talk about that for a second.
Yes, that's a lot of things people don't realize. They build up that they have their product and they don't know what all the costs in their product it has to have. One, you want to take the taxes, the cost of what it costs to get that product, whether it was material, ink, what kind of subscriptions do you have to have for that product to be made? What's your vendor price? People don't consider fuel. Are you having to drive to pick that product up, or is it being shipped? Are you counting freight charges? There's so many expenses inside your product. People don't add all of those expenses from the gross, the gross product price and all of the expenses that it costs to get that product to sale. And then that is what you should be selling that for, because by the time you're done, a lot of times they're not valuing that product. They go, oh, I'm just going off of what the competitor is selling it for.
Well, not only that, but then how do they compensate for the time that they put into it? Is there a value and a cost associated with it that you encourage them to put into? Because some of
Yes,
this is just labor of
yes.
love, or there was a learning curve and it took them longer to produce a result for maybe for a product or a service than their competitors. How do you advise them so that they can value their time that they put into it too?
Well, the first thing we want to do is get all the expenses logged down. Get all the expenses that I have a whole list. It's all in my head, 30 to 40 different things I'll go over. And then we want to see what your value is based on your time. It's just like valuing your time on whether you hire a contracted service like in a bookkeeper for $25 to $30 an hour versus you sitting down and doing those books when your value may be $200 to $300 an hour. Are you really going to sit there and do that when you can have an expert that can get it done much faster at the fair price? So those are things you have to look at, and people go, oh wow, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, your service can be better used over here of what your passion is versus what you're doing sitting down and doing bookkeeping work. It's my daughter is an entrepreneur and she's been doing it for 10 years. And I had this talk with her for the longest time in bringing in a bookkeeper and bringing in an assistant and showing her the value of her time to keep her passion doing what she's doing in the artwork that she does versus her sitting down and having to learn these processes that are not her cup of tea. And one, it burns you out, and then you lose your desire to keep going, because by the time you're done, you're doing 15% of what you started the business for and
Right.
85% of what you don't even care to do. And then what happens?
You get bored, you let it go, you put it
You do.
off, you put it in the bottom drawer, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Entrepreneurs, when we get in, we think we have to do it all, and we don't. We need to hire the experts to get us off the ground running as fast as possible. And there's so much support out here with a lot of different people, especially when you start with your business. Learn to network, learn to develop relationships within your community, and just learn to talk and grow with each other. There's a lot of people think they have to pay for every single thing. Bartering is going to be your best friend. Like we were talking in the beginning of the show, Linda, that's a lot of the things that I've done in the beginning, and my daughter did as well. Bartering is the greatest tool to really develop some core relationships. And we have to start with the bartering mindset, because you don't have to pay for everything to get started.
That's so true, because there are things that I can do that you can't, Tina, and things that I'm good at,
Oh,
or
definitely.
vice versa, that you're really great at that I totally suck at. And I just have to be willing to admit that I need help and know the right people to be able to go to, right?
Yes, definitely. You got to get out there and you got to talk and you got to network and you get, whether you're on a networking site or you're in person. You're right. Like for me, I do not do graphics. I can't, that is so tough for me. It's so challenging. I can't grasp myself around it. My daughter, she can whip out a graphic like that. Just all I have to do is tell her and she draws it, and she's got that artistic mind where
I
I'm
don't know,
more
Tina.
analytical.
Wait till you get your hands on a few AI tools, and you'll change your mind about that.
Oh, I know. I started doing some AI training too as well. We have 44% of jobs are going to be taken over from AI chatbots and roles. It's very interesting. I'm glad to hear you say that. Yeah, people need to learn what it's going to take over so you can prepare yourself in this world right now.
This is no different than, when we came from horse and buggies, and, you could have had the best horse whip. And we had already gone to cars. So, you really need to understand and don't underestimate what the trend is and whether it's going to become a permanent trend that's moving forward, like we are in this transition now in our monetary system and in this AI. You've got two converging technologies, and they're both going to be disruptors. People are going to be out of sorts, out of jobs, and out of things that they could easily be making those transitions into right now. Let's transition for just a second and talk about some of the things that you also expanded into. You started doing property management. How did you get into that?
Oh, so I started my real estate career back in 2000. I started working with an attorney firm that does real estate. And that was very interesting. And of course, just learned and learned from them. And then I rolled into multifamily property management. I also did Section 8 and I worked in the homeownership program, learned a lot from that level, from the federal level and the local county level. Did the homeownership program, and then the bubble burst back in 2008. Then I got into multifamily and then property management, single family property management as a financial controller. And I overhauled a company in Charlotte in business systems and processes to maximize profitability and fee structure, collections. And believe me, I did all of this during COVID.
Wow. So you also take over tasks and things that people really don't want to do. So as a property owner, and property management is a real key thing. But very few people, unless they are doing this as a full-time business, really want to be called in the middle of the night for the problems that show up as a property manager. And they also really kind of ignore some of the things that they need to be paying attention to, like the expenses and managing those expenses. If the average price of a property, it should be managed at about 35% of your scheduled gross income. Your net income is going to be a little bit different. Talk to me about how you look at finances and how you look at expenses and those expense ratios.
Yeah, so I do work with a few real estate investors, and a lot of their challenges, Linda, is they work with multiple property management companies all over the United States. They may have some properties in Kentucky or Arkansas, North Carolina, and all these different property management companies are charging different services, different software, and they're like, how is this one property manager giving me great quality service, but they're charging not as much as this other property management company that gives me horrible service, and their fees are higher. Well, it's called negotiation. So they just don't understand the processes and what needs to be done to be able to challenge the property management companies to make sure they're getting the value. A lot of times I've said, well, if they're struggling with you being able to see this report or that data, have them contact me, because they either need additional training or they're not doing something on their side that causes their business systems and processes to be visible enough to you for you to be able to see what you need, because investors need to be able to see their property value reports wherever they are at any time of day. So I work with a lot of times making sure they're live reports, or whether they email, you do scheduling reports. So there's a lot of different things you can do in the software to give them, the investor, that visibility. And the property management companies aren't their accountants. That's another thing. There's a misconception. They're not your accountants. They're the property management. Like, so I was a financial controller. I was the financial controller for the property management company, not for all the investors. And so I would tell them, if you want you need an accountant that can harness all of your portfolios, all of your homes, all over the United States, because, there's a lot of property management companies that don't pay taxes. They don't pay for all of these HOA fees and all of this other stuff. You need an accountant that can do that, and then have your accountant contact me, and we can talk the same language. So I think
There you
that's a
go.
lot of the other issues as well, is the investors think the property management company is their accountant, and they're not. You have to hire somebody that does that. So that is a lot of the reasons why there's a lot of misinformation out there. And my goal, again, is educating from both ends, being an advocate for the property management company and an advocate for the investor, because I see it from both sides.
And that's an important piece of this, because what kind of results are you getting, or are your clients getting, when you're able to see a top-down picture over multiple properties, and especially if they are managed by multiple management companies that don't go out of state, they stay right within state. How are you measuring? What are your KPIs that you're measuring on how your property is performing? Because at the end of the day, that's an investment. That's what they hired that company to do. So when you're talking with them, what kinds of things are you advising them? If they're in multiple states, how do you pull that picture together?
Well, the goal is to get everything centralized. That's the first thing. And a lot of investors don't have that centralized tracking system. They're piecemealing a lot of stuff. They also don't have the visibility that they need, and they don't know how to say what they need in order to get the data from the property management company. That's one of the components. And then, like I was telling you earlier, everybody talks different language depending on what state you're in, what property management, all the different languages. Like one property management software, they call it suppressed fees. Another one calls it pass through. There's all this different language, which makes it really difficult for these investors to understand when everybody's talking different languages and we're trying to centralize everything. I can get really complex and detailed on that. And that's just the method to my madness in harnessing the visibility that investor needs to understand the true cost of that part of their home, of that home, and what all is going into that home and coming out of it,
That makes
or
total
when to
sense.
sell it.
Well, and that's when you really realize, what did I do? Because if you weren't paying attention to it, I can assure you that the buyer of that property is, and they're picking it apart because they want to see, where can I reduce my cost, right? I mean, there's only a couple of places where you're going to do this. You're either going to lower the price, you're going to increase the revenue, right? So we're looking at where could we increase the revenue, or where can we increase the revenue and reduce the expenses? I mean, there's really only three spots. Talk to me a second about your is it Finlit IQ, or is it Finlight IQ?
Oh, Finland IQ. That is my nonprofit that I started in December. And that'll eventually get to where I'm doing a lot more educational. It's more for the younger generation, more for the high school and the college generation, and getting them more understanding in financial literacy on whatever level. I did. It's a passion of mine. My daughter knew how to balance a Quicken. We used Quicken back then. She knew how to balance a checkbook back in Quicken when she was 13 years old. I always showed my kids the good and bad around the financial flows of a household. They never were surprised and unfortunately that is not in all households.
No, I mean, most kids are completely ill-equipped to be able to even go out and rent an apartment, let alone know how they're going to qualify for a loan for a car, or their first investment, or even a home. So I think that, and I applaud you, because that's not taught in the public schools, and it's a great disservice, because when they get out, the mystery. Now, what are they relying on? They're now relying on how were they raised, and so what was that message that they got? Money doesn't grow on trees, or you've got to work a 9-to-5 job. The messages that we get that we have to overcome, and that's mindset. There's a number of other things. So, all right, Tina, we're going to go on another we're going to go on another comedy ride.
Okay.
All right.
Let's
So
go.
okay. We're sharing, we're going to spend a week in an Airbnb. There are 3 or 4 of us together, and one looks at everything and marks off on the invoice or on the receipts and says, I didn't eat that. I wasn't a part of that. Now take it from there.
Oh boy, I have had this. Let me be a little sensitive. So when you have somebody that's you go and everybody has to split things 4 ways. That needs to be, doesn't matter if you didn't eat the bread, doesn't matter if you didn't drink the soup. I bet you drank extra wine or had a few extra beers, or you were popping dollar bills over here, or whatever your situation is. You have to be, you have to have this agreement. It's a split 4 ways. Doesn't matter if you ate it or not. We all split this 4 ways. Are we not? Or you're going to have to you're going to either have to clean the sauna or wash the dishes, or you're going to have to do all the laundry, or we'll have you just, dust the whole house before we have to leave. You got to pay for your dues, and don't let them come back next year. That's not a friend you want to have in your house next time you go around. I had a son like that, Linda. My son used to say, I would like, okay, we have to do the dish. He goes, but I didn't eat. He would eat SpaghettiOs out of a can.
Oh, dear God.
And he would say, but I didn't eat dinner. I'm like, it doesn't matter. The dishes have to be done. You need to get the dishes done. He would purposely eat SpaghettiOs out of a can so he didn't have to do the dishes. Oh, that was a challenge.
God. Seriously. Oh, Lord. Well, you're probably not old enough to remember bumper stickers, but one that comes to mind was gas, grass, or ass. No one drives for free, right? Because it was always a hitchhiker and a message in them say that there's no free ride. Well, Tina, I can't even believe that we've got our time in, and I want to thank you so much. What can you give us, and what can you ask our audience to do to take away and take with them so that they can have a reminder of the value of being financially literate?
Overwhelm yourself about all the details. Honestly, what I love to do is not what you do, and vice versa. You have talents that I don't, and things that I don't like to do. I started a podcast, Linda, called F That Financials. And I even have Financial Fred, which I didn't bring with me today.
Financial Fred, I like that.
I have Financial Fred, and he's my little guest host. He doesn't speak or anything. And it's just mainly just to break the stigma about talking about money. It's just, bring a funny story about money, bring an enlightening story, an inspirational story. It doesn't matter if you're a single mom or a CEO. I'd love to have somebody on the podcast because I want to change the mindset all the way from children to the elderly. We have to break this stigma about money because I think it's the way it will change so much about how we live day to day if we stop focusing on it.
Awesome. Well, as the podcast maven of F That, Tina Meeks, thank you for joining us today. I so appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Money Talk.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm so glad that we finally got ourselves together on this recording. Join us again when we can take more action with our money. See you soon. Do you like to talk about money? If you do and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindakay360.com.